Gorgeous day out up here in DeWitt. This is around milepost 285. The first train of the day is a hot rod, an Amtrak. Well, those who have watched my channel for a few years, especially the logging one, the Fleet Command, will see that this will be the third Ram 1500 that has graced the channel. The first one was a silver 2014, and then the one I had just before this for the most number of years was a 2017, and now this is a 2024. And I guess there's just a couple of things that I would like to pass on to those prospective Ram buyers. You know, having these for a few years. There's a lot of stuff online about them. And the first is this, is my 2014 had the numerically higher axle ratios with the full tow package. And I towed a lot. I towed a lot of heavy things. It never really had any kind of problem with it and had reasonably good mileage. Surprisingly good mileage. Now my 2017 had the tow package, but it had the standard axle ratios. And that thing would break an exhaust manifold bolt pretty much every time I towed something heavy for more than a couple of hours. So I go up and down to Potsdam, New York. It's about a three and a half hour drive. And when I was towing a heavy boat or heavy trailer with a load, it was almost a guarantee that within the next week I'd have to bring it back to the dealer and get an exhaust manifold bolt changed. It's just what happened. Never happened with the 14, happened with the 17. And what I think the issue is with the lower gear ratio on the 14, it let the engine RPMs be up a little bit more than the standard gear ratio on the 17, and allowing the little higher RPM let the engine temperature in the combustion chamber be a little bit less. And I think that's what contributed to its success. And then having the lower RPMs, a little more pressure, you know, being lugged a little bit, I think contributed to the 2017's consistent failures. So that's tip number one. If you're going to tow something, get the tow package, obviously, but also make sure you get that higher numerical gear ratio in your axles. Otherwise, plan to be in the shop having to replace exhaust manifold bolts. Number two is I went to the smaller tire, because both the ones I had before had the larger 20-inch rims. And what I found was with the stock OEM tires, they ran pretty good, you know, but they were 4-ply. And with the shorter sidewall, I broke those darn things, you know, going up and down the hill and getting out in the woods because I do the logging thing. I was breaking those tires. So I went to an aftermarket tire with 10-ply, and I could never get them to balance. And then what happened was I started going through wheel bearings up front. And I really credit that to being because the tires were never completely balanced. Not well. You know, the 4-ply Goodyears, they balanced out quite nice. They ran nice and smooth. But the BF Goodriches I had, my God, they couldn't get them to balance. I had one shop that did a pretty good job dynamically balancing them, but even then, after a while, they began to bounce around again. So this time I said, screw that. Let me go to the smaller Ram, have a higher or a taller sidewall, and that will be a little bit, you know, softer ride. Not quite as good a handler because the stiffness of the sidewall affects the handling quite a bit. but it does ride nicer than my 17 and my 14. And with a taller sidewall, I think it's going to last a little bit longer in the off-road, you know, type things that I do. It's not going to get busted by the shale like the other tires did, because there's more flex in the tire. And it's a theory we're going to test. And last but not least is when I bust a tire, these are a whole lot less expensive than those 20-inch tires. So that was a conscious decision, and that's because I spent a lot of money on tires. So that's a choice I made. Now this e-torque thing, I got it because it cost me nothing. I don't think I would spend money for that particular feature. Basically, you carry around an extra battery, a lithium-ion battery behind the seat here. It's behind that seat right there. I've got my dog hammock in here, so you know I don't want them getting all over the seats. But basically what it is, it's a motor generator sitting where the alternator used to be. And the theory is that it charges up that lithium-ion battery, the 48-volt thing. And then when you hit the gas, when you first accelerate off a stoplight or something like that, it gives a little bit of extra punch through the belt to the motor, as it's not just an alternator, it's actually a generator, but it's also a motor generator, so it can actually add a little power to the system. That's its theory. And be honest with you, I don't think it really does a whole lot. I think it's more of a talking point, selling point, that it actually is something of benefit. I wouldn't spend the money on it. And the other thing about it is it's an extra system that can fail. So I wouldn't recommend it, even though I have it. I've got it, like I said, because it kind of came with the ride. It's what they had on the lot. Gave me a very, very good deal, and it didn't cost me anything. So there it is. But I honestly can't really feel a difference, you know. So there's my, that's my thought. I like these things. They've served me well. Other than exhaust manifold bolts on the 17, I don't think I've had a problem with them. Well, wheel bearings. But yet again, I think that had to do a lot with the tires. I could never get balanced properly. So, good trucks. Good mileage. It used to shock me that I can get the mileage that I was getting towing with my 17. My God, I was getting 20 miles to the gallon pulling a big boat. And so the adventure begins with this one right here. A little fancier, a little more backseat room than the other one had. Much larger screen for the backup camera and stuff like that. It's got this console here as compared to having a full seat. I'm not sure I like that as much. We will find out. What happens with these consoles is I just tend to fill them up, where without that it would be in a toolbox in the back. Oh yeah, the longer cab means a shorter box. That doesn't really mean much to me, because the reason why I have a pickup is because what I really need is just enough space for the chainsaws, you know what I'm saying? To get them out of the actual cab. Otherwise, if I had a Suburban or something like that, I'd be living with the smell of gas. So chainsaws and tools, they go in the back. But so that's my thoughts, as Ram 1500 Hemi owner since 2014, 10 years of it, and the adventure continues. Well, this is at milepost 280.4, and I believe this will be I-007 coming in, getting ready for his load. Check it out, spine cars. Yeah, got those spine cars in the very end, just like we were buying for the model railroad set. Yeah, I had cars hustling. They want to get to the intersection before the train does. So you had these guys screaming up the road. So